Okay, so let's start this. This series of talks on cloud computing is organized by the AWS Community Pakistan. AWS Community Pakistan wants to make the world of Amazon Web Services accessible to all and brings together industry experts and knowledge seekers to help cloud enthusiasts achieve their learning goals and learn practical skills used in tech today. This talk is organized with the help of university students, especially Sumama and Adil. You can join them on AWS Community Pakistan group on Facebook. Hello everyone. My name is Asjad. I am an accountant and a computer addict. Here you can see a bit about me. I currently work in PPS Private Limited, and along with our partners, we manage one of the biggest empty container storage terminals and logistics operations in Pakistan. I also personally work as a cloud computing consultant and corporate trainer. We have an in-house terminal and logistics management system that we are planning to migrate to the cloud. And once you guys finish your studies and are interested in logistics or terminal or port operations or cloud computing, do give us a call. You can reach me on LinkedIn or Twitter. Okay, so let's start then. This is an introductory level talk on cloud computing. It is intended for people who have little to no idea about what cloud computing actually is. During this talk, we will be focusing on AWS. Now, why AWS? First of all, because I really like AWS, but more importantly, it is the biggest cloud service provider in the world right now. So let us start with the definition of cloud computing. And like every good university student these days, I copied it from Wikipedia. So let's read this. It says, cloud computing is the on-demand availability of computer system resources, especially data storage, cloud storage. Well, this is a bit complicated, so let's simplify and build up on it. Now I know this definition of cloud computing has become sort of an internet meme at this point, but it serves its purpose. The three essential components of this definition are using someone else's computer, on rent, via the internet. So if I say that someone wants to start a cloud computing business, well, they have to buy a computer, put it on the internet, and charge people to use it. This, in a nutshell, is what Amazon is doing. It is what Microsoft and Google are doing, except that they're doing it on a massive and global scale. What they have done further is they have also started providing specialized computer services via the internet to paying customers like database solutions or AI solutions. These services, we will have a look at them in a moment. But to really understand cloud computing though, we have to compare it with traditional classic on-premise IT. So, traditional IT. Traditional IT is very capital intensive and the equipment is owned by the company. Think about getting upgrades and keeping the equipment up to date, maintenance, eventual replacements. We also have software licensing cost, and of course we need staff to maintain it and look after it to keep it running 24/7. So if someone wants to start their business and go the traditional route, they will need servers, storage, security and networking equipment. They will need backup systems. They will need internet connectivity, fire and safety equipment. They will need backup power, air conditioning, trained staff. And if this requirement is big enough, maybe a whole room or maybe even a building to house it. So we are looking at a huge investment. And even before starting, we have to wait maybe in some cases weeks or weeks to months, maybe months, before we get the equipment, provided we get the right equipment. I remember so many times that vendors have messed up our orders and not delivered on time. For a business investment in traditional IT can go from thousands of dollars to sometimes in tens of millions, maybe even higher. They may even have to borrow money from a bank to finance all of this. Meanwhile, on the cloud computing side of things, a cloud provider like AWS is just sitting there with everything ready and set up. Things that we would have to take care of in a traditional setup. We can have, with just a few mouse clicks, in a matter of minutes, all of these resources that traditional IT offers ready for use. In future episodes, we will demonstrate how spinning up hundreds of computers, AWS calls them EC2 instances, can be done in a matter of minutes with networking, security, and other things all ready to go. And not only that, AWS has a lot of specialized managed services and full products ready to use, things like AI and machine learning, data analytics, mobile and IoT services, virtual and augmented reality solutions, quantum computing. Yeah, that is right. I said quantum computing, people. So if your university is not buying you a quantum computer, maybe you can request them to rent one from AWS. So basically, for someone using the cloud or using cloud computing, we have replaced all of their capital expenditure with a pay-as-you-use rental arrangement. They do not need a massive investment. They can start using compute resources immediately. And they just have to make sure that whatever revenue they're generating is enough to cover their operational expenses. And in case if someone wants to get rid of all of the infrastructure, they can do it in a matter of minutes. Just a few clicks and you can stop whatever you're using. Compared to traditional IT, just think about getting rid of millions of dollars of computer equipment and the losses you may incur. Now, Werner Vogels, the chief technology officer of Amazon.com, coined the term undifferentiated heavy lifting. This right here. Several years ago, to describe all the hard IT work that companies do that does not add value to the mission of the company. He suggests that business should stop spending money on undifferentiated heavy lifting and instead acquire resources on demand and pay for what you use. Leverage each other's competencies, turn fixed cost into variable. Cloud computing lets you do exactly that and focus on the core of your business and let infrastructure specialists, the cloud computing providers, deal with what they do best. To be honest, very few businesses can run a data center as efficiently as AWS, Google, or Microsoft. So, coming back to the definition. A more simplified version of the Wikipedia definition. Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. This should start making some sense now, but you can stick with the simpler definition if you want. Now, I have highlighted some of these words. We will be revisiting them during this presentation. So, if you use cloud computing, instead of buying, owning, and maintaining your physical data centers and servers, you can access technology services such as computing power, storage, and databases, and much more on an as-needed basis. There is no upfront cost and there is no commitment. There are more benefits to cloud computing. First one is trading capital expense for variable expense. We have already discussed this. There is benefit from massive economies of scale since cloud providers purchase absolutely astronomical amounts of computer hardware. They get a lot of savings which they eventually pass on to their customers. Customers, on the other hand, can stop guessing capacity. With cloud computing, this problem goes away. You can access as much or as little capacity as you need and scale up and scale down as required with only a few minutes notice. This can be automated as well. That is called auto-scaling. This benefit we will also discuss shortly. There is also increased speed and agility. New IT resources are only a click away, which means that you reduce the time to make those resources available. This results in a dramatic increase in agility for the organization, since the cost and time it takes to experiment and develop is significantly lower. And if you don't need something, simply get rid of it in minutes. It allows you to stop spending money running and maintaining data centers. Focus on projects that differentiate your business, not the infrastructure. Cloud computing lets you focus on your own customers. The cloud service providers and specialists running data centers, due to specialization, they can do this with much more efficiently. There may be very few businesses, if any, that can match cloud computers in their ability to run data centers. As example, if we take a look at the S3 service, which is an AWS storage product, it provides 11 nines of durability of objects over a given year. To put this into perspective, suppose if you store 10 million objects with S3, you can on average expect to incur a loss of a single object every 10,000 years. I said 10,000 years. Think about it. If you were somehow able to store tens of millions of files 10,000 years back, which will be something like the Neolithic period in human history, you maybe will suffer the loss of a single object today in 2020. This kind of durability is mind-boggling. Anyway, with cloud computing, we can also go global in minutes. You can easily deploy your application in multiple regions around the world with just a few clicks. We will have a brief look at this as well shortly. First though, let's discuss auto-scaling and the ability to stop guessing capacity. The red line here is our demand for computation power. The blue line is traditional IT setup, and the yellow line, this represents cloud computing resources. As with all businesses, demand is cyclical. It grows and shrinks all the time. With cloud computing, the yellow line, we can match actual demand very, very closely. We are not over-provisioning or under-provisioning at any point. We let demand dictate our consumption of computer resources. Meanwhile, traditional IT, if we see the blue line, well, first of all, we have to do a lot of capital expenditure to get started. This right here. Also, we buy in bulk and therefore in steps, like so. This procurement procedure may take weeks or months. Businesses usually over-provision so they can meet an unexpected spike in demand. Therefore, they have to predict capacity, which is very, very hard to do, and most get it wrong. This in turn means they are over-investing in computer resources, which is indicated by the green line over here. Furthermore, if there's a spike in demand, think about the holiday season or your product really takes off. What happens is the demand shoots up, like over here. See this red triangle? The computer resources of the traditional IT setup fails to keep up, thus incurring loss of customers or loss of sales until the resources catch up to demand. Now, coming back to cloud computing, because of the way we provision resources, it matches the demand very, very closely, and the increments are much more granular than traditional IT. Now, let us look at a more extreme example of this. We will be looking at how Wall Street firms use cloud computing to make huge savings. This is the data for a Wall Street firm which uses 3,000 servers to do its calculations. Look closely at this graph. Every weekday morning at around 8, they spin up 3,000 servers, right over here. And when the business day ends, they go down to 300 servers. This is where the business day ends, and you see they're shutting down computers. They go all the way down to 300 servers. During the weekend, they just have 300 servers running, which would be like Saturday or Sunday over here. Think about this, a complex computer infrastructure growing and shrinking on daily or even hourly demand. This is what Wall Street is doing. This is what other cutting-edge companies are doing. All this is implemented through what we call infrastructure as code. You can Google that and learn more about it. As for traditional IT, they cannot even dream about doing something like this. Now, the global presence of AWS is just as impressive. They have presence in 245 countries, they have 24 regions and 77 availability zones and 220 plus points of presence. This is growing daily. That means you can have computer resources available almost everywhere around the globe. Furthermore, all of these facilities are connected by high bandwidth, low latency network operated by AWS. This ensures security, performance, and reliability. This is another huge advantage of cloud computing. Think about setting up different data centers in different countries using traditional IT. It could be a regulatory or logistical nightmare. It will take months to do what cloud computing lets you do in minutes. Here are some of the regions AWS operates in. This is growing all the time. We have California, Ohio, Canada, Tokyo, Singapore, Sydney, and many others, all connected with each other over the AWS private network. So now that we know a bit about what cloud computing is and the advantages of it offers, let's have a look at the cloud computing landscape. It generates an annual revenue of USD 111 billion. That's right, 111 billion. It is absolutely humongous. We have AWS in the lead, followed by Azure and Google Cloud, as well as other players like Alibaba, IBM, and Oracle. AWS got into the game early on and launched cloud computing for the public. They offer easy-to-use services and offer a lot of them. Microsoft is firmly in second place, and they got into the cloud game as well and have invested a lot of money. They have a very, very strong platform. People refer to Google Cloud Platform as GCP. They are also heavily into machine learning and AI, and they are currently in the third place. We have now looked at how big everyone is. Now let us see how they stack up. This is a study by Gartner. Gartner is a multi-million-dollar US research group and advisory firm. They target sectors such as IT, finance, HR marketing, and many others. According to them, AWS sits firmly in the lead with Microsoft and Google in second and third place respectively. You can read more about this report in the URL below. There are a few cloud computing models we should be aware of, such as infrastructure as service, where AWS manages stuff in the dark gray over here, and you manage everything above it in light gray. Similar is platform as a service, where a lot more is managed by AWS and you mostly manage your application code and the data. The stuff in dark gray is all managed by AWS. This is very beneficial for small teams of developers who want to focus on coding and develop their products instead of looking after the IT infrastructure, all of which is automated. And finally, there is software as a service, where everything is managed by the cloud provider and you just get to enjoy and pay for the services. The example of software as a service is Gmail, and for platform as a service we have Elastic Beanstalk, and for infrastructure as service there are services like EC2, S3, and many others. There are also other models like function as a service or serverless, but these are the more popular ones. While as you can see, for on-premise over here, you manage everything from networking to storage to servers, virtualization, the operating system, middleware, runtime, data, and application. Moving to the cloud is not an all or nothing deal. We can fine tune your level of engagement. You can go for hybrid development, where some infrastructure remains with you on your premise and some is used via cloud. You can also go full cloud and have everything running on the cloud. These days, instead of saying who is using the cloud, we should be asking who isn't using the cloud. There are so many companies. There are companies like IMDb, Discovery, Airbnb, Novartis, Philips, Unilever, Coinbase. So many companies are using the cloud. Not to mention the millions of developers and small businesses using cloud computing. One thing you should know as well is when you sign up for AWS, you get a lot of free things. Some of these are free for a year, others are free forever. If you look at it, you get 5 GB of free storage on S3, 25 GB of storage on DynamoDB, which is a NoSQL database, 1 million requests on AWS Lambda, where you can do serverless computing, and there is much more. You as students will have this computing power available to you for free. Small businesses can take advantage of this as well. This is an amazing amount of computing power. Think how much it would cost you to provision this if you were using traditional IT. So, if you learn to use the cloud and harness its power, you can do a lot. You can find more details on the URL on the right. Also, check out the feedback form in the details below, where 5 lucky students will get an AWS account for 25 USD each, courtesy of AWS and AWS Community Pakistan. With all this being said, I will have to admit that using AWS isn't that easy. It can take a while to get trained to use it properly and efficiently. In fact, the first time you look at the AWS console, it can be downright intimidating. Thankfully, AWS has launched many certifications that can help you learn and get certified in areas you may be interested in. These certifications there are specialty certifications as well as core certifications. I am currently studying for AWS Certified DevOps Engineer Professional and have completed all the associate certifications as well as the Cloud Practitioner Foundational certification. I urge you to, at the very least, get the Cloud Practitioner certificate before you graduate. It will be an excellent introduction to cloud platform and will help you get started. Furthermore, if you pass it, you get a 50% discount on any further certification which you may want to pursue in the future. Certifications that focus on data analytics or databases. There's also machine learning, advanced networking, and security. These are all in very high demand. The CEO of AWS, Mr. Andy Jassy, said something very important. Cloud computing is the new normal. If you are a company that is still doing traditional IT, you are very probably doing it wrong. Cloud computing is cheap, it is reliable, it is instantly and globally available. I would like to say that cloud computing is the new thing, but really it isn't. Some say it started in the 2000s, while others say the concept was there in the 1990s. Anyway, it is battle tested, it is reliable, and it is a proven platform, and everyone should know it. The whole world is moving towards cloud computing, and you as students should drive this change. As you get your career started, not only will it benefit you, but will also benefit the organizations you will work for. All sorts of companies, including heavily regulated sectors like banks or healthcare, they're moving to the cloud. Small businesses are doing that as well. So, thank you for joining me on this brief talk on AWS and cloud computing. Please remember to fill out the feedback form and join the AWS Community Pakistan group page on Facebook. And stay tuned as more industry experts will take you deeper into this journey of cloud computing. Thank you all and good night.